Pinewood, a picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. The camera pans over modest homes with well-kept lawns, a small downtown area with local businesses, and finally settles on Pinewood Community Hospital, a 3-story brick building serving as the medical hub for the surrounding county. "Pinewood is the kind of place where everyone knows your business before you do," narrates Rebecca Miller, her voice steady and clinical as she describes her hometown. The camera follows her through hospital corridors, her blue scrubs and efficient movements marking her as someone comfortable in this environment. "I've been a nurse here for 8 years, it's where I belong." Rebecca is shown at the nurses' station, reviewing patient charts with meticulous attention. Her colleagues respect her, patients trust her, and Dr. James Wilson, the chief of medicine, relies on her expertise. "Rebecca is the backbone of our ICU," Dr. Wilson states in his interview segment, his silver hair and calm demeanor conveying authority. She handles crisis situations with a level of composure that's rare. The documentary cuts to Rebecca's modest home, where she prepares dinner as Thomas Cooper grades papers at the kitchen table. He looks up occasionally to smile at her, his charisma evident even in these quiet domestic moments. "Thomas and I met at a fundraiser for the hospital 3 years ago," Rebecca explains in a voiceover. "He teaches chemistry at Pinewood High. We just clicked." Thomas speaks directly to the camera. "What drew me to Rebecca was her stability. She knows who she is, what she wants. His smile is warm but doesn't quite reach his eyes. That's rare these days." The documentary introduces Elaine Miller through family photos and then cuts to her working at Pinewood Pharmacy. Younger than Rebecca, with a more outgoing demeanor, she chats easily with customers. "Coming back to Pinewood wasn't in my plans," Elaine admits during her interview. "But after things fell apart in Chicago, Rebecca was there for me. She's always been the reliable one." We see the three of them at a local restaurant, laughing and sharing a meal. The camera catches subtle moments. Thomas's hand lingering too long when passing Elaine a basket of bread. Elaine's eyes following Thomas when Rebecca looks away. An unspoken tension beneath the surface camaraderie. A montage shows Rebecca noticing small discrepancies. Thomas claiming to be at school late while his car is absent from the faculty parking lot. Elaine canceling their weekly sister lunch 3 times in a row. Unusual text notifications that Thomas quickly dismisses. "It started with little things," Rebecca's voice explains over footage of her lying awake beside Thomas. "The kind of details most people would ignore, but nurses are trained to observe, to recognize patterns in chaos." The pivotal moment comes when Rebecca borrows Thomas's laptop to check her email. A notification appears, a message from Elaine. "Same time tomorrow? Can't wait." Rebecca's expression remains neutral, but the camera zooms in on her hand, gripping the edge of the table until her knuckles turn white. The final scene shows Rebecca in the hospital parking lot, watching Thomas's car pull into a secluded spot where Elaine is waiting. From Rebecca's distance, we can't hear their conversation, but their body language speaks volumes. They don't kiss, nothing so obvious, but their intimate familiarity is unmistakable. "In a town like Pinewood," Rebecca concludes as the camera captures her expressionless face, "secrets have nowhere to hide, not forever." The morning light filters through thin curtains as Rebecca lies awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. Thomas sleeps soundly beside her, unaware of her silent vigil. A voiceover from Rebecca. "In nursing school, they teach you to track everything. Medication times, vital signs, fluid intake. I started keeping track of Thomas the same way." Rebecca's journal appears on screen, dates, times, locations. Thomas claimed to be at faculty meetings on evenings when no meetings were scheduled. Elaine mentioned weekend shifts that the pharmacy manager later referenced as her days off. Phone calls that ended abruptly when Rebecca entered the room. "Suspicion is like a virus," Rebecca explains in her interview, sitting stiffly in her living room. "Once it enters your system, it multiplies until it's all you can think about." The documentary follows Rebecca through a week of careful observation. She leaves a voice recorder running in her living room when she forgets her lunch and returns home unexpectedly. She checks Thomas's credit card statements, finding charges at Riverdale Inn, a motel 30 minutes outside of Pinewood. She drives there during her lunch break, shows Thomas's picture to the receptionist. "Yeah, he's been here," the receptionist confirms, snapping her gum. "Always pays cash, but I've seen him." usually with a younger woman. I figured they were married, just not to each other. Rebecca sits in her car afterward, the camera tight on her face as she processes this confirmation. No tears, just a hardening around her eyes. That evening, Rebecca attends a hospital function with Thomas. The camera captures them moving through the crowd, her hand on his arm, both smiling and exchanging pleasantries with colleagues. Dr. Wilson approaches, clapping Thomas on the shoulder. "Thomas! Rebecca tells me you're helping with the chemistry demonstration for the children's ward next month. The kids will love it." "Anything for Pinewood's healthcare heroes," Thomas replies, his arm slipping around Rebecca's waist. His phone buzzes. He checks it subtly. "Excuse me," he says. "School emergency. I need to make a call." After he steps away, Dr. Wilson studies Rebecca's face. "Everything all right, Rebecca? You seem distant lately." "Just tired, Dr. Wilson. Double shifts." "James, please, after all these years." He lowers his voice. "If you need someone to talk to, professionally or otherwise, my door is always open." Rebecca nods, her expression revealing nothing. The next scene shows Rebecca parking outside Elaine's apartment, waiting. An hour passes. Thomas's car pulls up. Rebecca activates her phone's camera as Thomas enters the building without knocking. He has a key. The camera remains fixed on Rebecca's face, capturing the exact moment something breaks behind her eyes. 3 days later, Rebecca prepares dinner, moving mechanically around the kitchen. When Thomas returns home, she places a printed photo on the counter, Thomas and Elaine entering her apartment. "How long?" Rebecca's voice is clinically detached. Thomas freezes, then sighs, shoulders slumping. "Becky, it's not what you think." 8 years of nursing, Thomas. I know exactly what "it's not what you think" means. It means it's exactly what I think, just worse. She places a second photo beside the first, Thomas and Elaine at the Riverdale Inn. "How long?" The confrontation unfolds with devastating calm. Thomas paces, makes excuses, eventually admits to a 4-month affair that began shortly after Elaine's return. She was vulnerable, Rebecca. Broken after what happened in Chicago. We were just talking at first, I swear. And then, I don't know. It happened. But it's not serious, it's just physical. Rebecca's laugh is brittle. Just physical. Like cancer is just cells. "I'll end it," Thomas promises, reaching for her hands. "Tonight. I swear to God, Rebecca. It was a mistake. You're the one I want a future with." The documentary cuts to Rebecca's interview. "When someone shows you who they are, believe them. That's what my mother always said. But we don't, do we? We believe what we need to believe." The next morning, Rebecca calls in sick, the first time in 3 years. She drives to Elaine's apartment, knocks firmly. When Elaine opens the door, her smile falters. "Becky, shouldn't you be at work?" Rebecca holds up her phone, showing the photos. "We need to talk." Inside, Elaine's apartment is chaotic. Clothes draped over furniture, unwashed dishes in the sink. So different from Rebecca's ordered space. "You knew he was mine," Rebecca says, her voice dangerously steady. "It just happened, Becky. We didn't plan it." "Things don't just happen, Elaine. Surgery complications just happen. Multi-car pileups just happen. Sleeping with your sister's boyfriend requires decisions. Multiple decisions, every step of the way." Elaine's defiance surfaces. "Maybe if you weren't so perfect all the time. So controlled. Do you have any idea what it's like living in your shadow? Saint Rebecca, who always does everything right. Is that why you did it? To prove you could take something of mine? He's not a possession, Becky. And maybe he wouldn't have looked elsewhere if you weren't so cold." The camera lingers on Rebecca's face as the accusation lands. For the first time, her composure cracks slightly. The scene shifts to Pinewood Community Hospital. Rebecca returns to work the following day, moving through her duties with mechanical precision. A colleague, Nurse Jenny Martinez, approaches during break. "You okay? You don't seem like yourself." "I'm fine. Thomas called the ward looking for you yesterday, seemed worried." Rebecca's eyes narrow slightly. "Did he?" Later, Dr. Wilson finds Rebecca in the medication room, meticulously counting pills. "Rebecca, my office when you have a moment." In his office, Dr. Wilson doesn't pretend. Small towns, small hospitals, people talk. He offers her a cup of tea. I've known you since you were a student nurse. Whatever's happening, you don't have to handle it alone. For the first time, Rebecca allows herself to break down. The camera respectfully pans away, focusing instead on the family photos on Wilson's desk. His wife, grown children, a life of apparent stability. I trusted them both. Rebecca's voice cracks. What am I supposed to do now? Whatever you need to, take time off, I can arrange it. No, Rebecca straightens. Work is the only thing that makes sense right now. That evening, Rebecca returns home to find roses, a handwritten letter from Thomas promising the affair is over. He's ended things with Elaine, wants to rebuild their trust, suggests couples therapy. Rebecca reads it twice, then places it carefully in her evidence journal. A week passes in an uneasy truce. Thomas is attentive, transparent about his whereabouts. Rebecca maintains a polite distance. She tells the camera, in the ICU we have a saying, trust but verify. Patients lie about their pain levels, their medication adherence, not out of malice but self-preservation. The verification comes on a Tuesday. Rebecca, leaving work early, drives past the pharmacy. Elaine's car is gone, though her shift doesn't end for hours. Acting on instinct, Rebecca drives to Thomas's school. His car is in the lot. She waits. An hour later, Elaine's car pulls in. She parks beside Thomas's vehicle, glances around, then slips inside the building. Rebecca follows at a distance, tracking them to Thomas's classroom. Through the small window in the door, she watches them embrace, their conversation inaudible, but their intentions clear. When they kiss, Rebecca doesn't look away. Back in her car, Rebecca makes a call. Dr. Wilson, I need to take you up on that time off. The chapter ends with Rebecca alone in her bedroom, methodically removing Thomas's belongings from their shared dresser, placing them in boxes. Her movements are precise, clinical. On the bedside table, a notebook lies open, a new page with a single heading, Plan. In her final interview segment of the chapter, Rebecca looks directly into the camera. People think betrayal happens in a moment. One decision, one mistake. But that's not true. Betrayal is a series of choices, each one a little easier than the last. She pauses. So is revenge. The Pinewood Community Hospital cafeteria buzzes with morning activity as Rebecca sits alone, stirring coffee she isn't drinking. The documentary captures furtive glances from colleagues, hushed conversations that halt when she looks up. A text message illuminates her phone. Thomas, again. Please come home. We need to talk. Rebecca's voice narrates, there's a phenomenon we see in the ICU. Patients who are terminal often experience a surge of energy before the end, the body's last attempt at self-preservation. The camera follows Rebecca to the nurse's station where Jenny Martinez hands her a patient chart while avoiding eye contact. Something wrong, Jenny? Rebecca asks. Jenny hesitates. Elaine called for you yesterday, said it was urgent. Did she? Rebecca. Jenny lowers her voice. Everyone knows about Thomas and Elaine. Rebecca's face remains impassive. Everyone? Diane saw them at Lakeview Point. It was pretty obvious. Lakeview Point, a popular spot for teenagers and couples seeking privacy. Rebecca files this information away with a slight nod. I'm sorry, Jenny continues. It's just, this is Pinewood. News travels. News or gossip. The scene transitions to Rebecca in Dr. Wilson's office, requesting access to medical records. I need to see Elaine's file. Dr. Wilson frowns. You know I can't authorize that, Rebecca. Hype AA regulations. James. Rebecca rarely uses his first name. My sister returned from Chicago with a story about career disappointment. I need to know if there's more. Whatever you're thinking, this isn't the way. There's always a medical reason for behavior changes, Rebecca insists. That's what you taught me. I also taught you ethical boundaries. Wilson studies her. What are you really looking for, Rebecca? She doesn't answer. Later, Rebecca sits in her car outside the pharmacy, watching Elaine through the window. Her sister moves differently now, glancing at her phone frequently, smiling at private messages. Rebecca takes out a small notebook and makes another entry. The documentary cuts to Sheriff Mike Dawson at his desk. Small towns have long memories, he explains. The Miller family has been in Pinewood for generations. Good people, mostly. Their father left when the girls were young. Their mother worked 2 jobs to support them. Rebecca was always the responsible one. Straight-A student, volunteer work, scholarships. Elaine was, he pauses, searching for a diplomatic term, more free-spirited. A series of photographs illustrates the sisters' divergent paths. Rebecca in nursing scrubs, receiving an employee recognition award. Elaine at parties, a sequence of different hair colors and boyfriends. The narrative shifts to Rebecca parked outside Riverdale Inn again. Thomas's car is there. So is Elaine's. Rebecca reaches for her phone, but instead grabs her notebook, adding another entry with precise handwriting. Riverdale Inn, October 14th, 7:30 p.m., both present. When she returns home, Rebecca opens her laptop and creates a new document, Incident Log. She transfers all her handwritten notes, adding dates, times, locations. She includes photographs, text messages she's recovered, receipts Thomas left in his pockets. The documentation is meticulous, clinical, like a patient's chart. The following day, Rebecca approaches the hospital's IT technician, Mark Fields. "I think my personal email has been compromised," she lies smoothly. "Can you help me recover deleted messages?" Mark, eager to impress, shows her how to retrieve deleted emails. "Just don't tell anyone I showed you this, okay? It's technically against policy." That night, Rebecca applies the technique to Thomas's laptop while he showers. Dozens of emails between Thomas and Elaine appear, dating back 6 months, 2 months longer than Thomas admitted. The messages reveal an emotional depth that contradicts his claim that the relationship was just physical. One email from Thomas to Elaine reads, "Sometimes I think we're the only 2 people who understand each other in this town. Rebecca means well, but she doesn't see me. Not really. With you, I don't have to pretend." Rebecca copies everything to a USB drive, her movements methodical. The documentary cuts to an interview with Thomas looking haggard. "I made a terrible mistake," he admits. "The worst part is, I hurt the 2 women I care about most. Rebecca found out, and I promised to end things with Elaine. I meant it when I said it." He pauses, but Elaine was distraught, threatened to hurt herself. "I couldn't just abandon her." The camera lingers, inviting him to continue. "Elaine has always been fragile. After what happened in Chicago," Thomas catches himself. "It's complicated." Rebecca's routine shifts. The documentary shows her attending a self-defense class at the YMCA, researching surveillance equipment online, opening a new checking account in her name only. Each action deliberate, emotionless. Dr. Wilson finds her in the hospital chapel during her break. "Rebecca." He sits beside her in the empty room. "I'm worried about you." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. Your performance is still excellent, but you're different, detached. It's affecting the staff." Rebecca meets his eyes. "Did you know?" Wilson looks away first. "I had suspicions. Thomas came to the hospital too often. The way he looked at Elaine at the staff barbecue last month." "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" Rebecca considers this. "Probably not." "What are you planning, Rebecca?" When she doesn't respond, Wilson continues, "Whatever it is, remember who you are. 8 years, I've watched you save lives, comfort families through the worst moments of their existence. You're stronger than this situation. Strength isn't always kind, James." The turning point comes when Rebecca walks into Doreen's diner for lunch, and conversations halt at her entrance. Doreen herself, a town fixture for 30 years, approaches with coffee and unwanted sympathy. "On the house, honey. That Thomas never deserved you anyway, and as for your sister," she clucks her tongue, "some people just don't have the decency gene." Rebecca's voice tightens. "How long have you known?" Doreen has the grace to look embarrassed. "Honey, they've been coming in here for breakfast every Saturday for months. Always sitting in that back booth, holding hands when they thought nobody was looking. Public humiliation burns differently than private betrayal." Rebecca leaves her coffee untouched and exits. That afternoon, she drives to her mother's grave in Pinewood Cemetery. The headstone reads, "Margaret Miller, 1958 to 2020. Beloved Mother." "I should have listened to you, Mom," Rebecca speaks to the granite marker. "You always said Elaine took after Dad, never satisfied with what she had." She traces the engraved letters. "I've always been the one to clean up her messes. Not this time." The documentary cuts to Elaine at the pharmacy, her phone constantly in hand. A text arrives. "Meeting tomorrow canceled. Too risky. Same place Saturday." Elaine's interview reveals a woman torn between guilt and justification. "I never meant to hurt Rebecca, it just... Thomas and I connected on a level I didn't expect. After Chicago, I was in a dark place. He understood." "What happened in Chicago?" the interviewer asks. Elaine's expression closes. "That's not relevant." Rebecca's surveillance escalates. She places a small tracking device in Elaine's car during a rare civil interaction. When they cross paths at the grocery store, she installs a program on her home computer that forwards Thomas's emails to her private account. She researches Thomas's previous relationships, discovering a pattern. He's left every girlfriend for someone in their social circle. At work, Rebecca volunteers for the night shift, minimizing her time at home with Thomas, who still hasn't moved out despite her coldness. Their house becomes a battleground of painful silence. During one rare evening at home, Thomas attempts reconciliation. "I've started therapy," he tells her, sliding a business card across the kitchen counter. "Dr. Marshall in Oak Ridge. We could go together." Rebecca studies the card without touching it. "Are you still seeing her?" Thomas's hesitation is answer enough. "Then therapy is just another performance, like our relationship." "It's not that simple, Becky. She's not stable. She has these episodes." "What happened in Chicago, Thomas?" His expression shifts. "She hasn't told you?" "I'm asking you." Thomas sighs. "She took an overdose after her boss at the marketing firm ended their affair. He was married. When his wife found out, he fired Elaine, claimed she was stalking him. She nearly died, Rebecca." The revelation lands like a stone in still water. "And you thought starting another affair with a married man's wife was therapeutic?" "I'm not married." "You shared a home with me for 3 years. What would you call it?" The conversation ends in stalemate. That weekend, Detective Sarah Harrison enters the narrative. The documentary shows her at the police station, reviewing reports. At 42, Harrison carries herself with quiet authority, her movements economical, her gaze observant. A patrol officer approaches her desk. "Got another call from Riverdale Inn. Manager says the same couple is back, the teacher and the younger woman, making a scene this time." Harrison sighs. "Domestic?" "Not yet, but heading that way according to the front desk." Harrison drives to the motel. Through the window of room 118, she observes Thomas and Elaine in heated argument. She knocks, identifying herself as law enforcement. Thomas opens the door, attempting composure. "Officer, is there a problem?" "Detective," Harrison corrects. "There have been noise complaints. Everything all right here?" Elaine sits on the bed, eyes red. "We're fine. Just a disagreement." Harrison notices bruises on Elaine's wrist. "Miss? Did someone grab you?" Elaine covers her wrist. "I did it to myself during an episode. Mr. Cooper, I suggest you two take this conversation somewhere more private than a motel off the highway." Harrison hands them each a card. "If either of you needs assistance, call that number." After they leave separately, Harrison runs their names through the system. Thomas Cooper, clean record. Elaine Miller, 1 incident report from Chicago PD, suspected intentional overdose, no charges filed. Harrison's interview provides perspective. "In 15 years of law enforcement, I've learned that domestic situations have patterns. Escalation is the most dangerous phase. People who feel cornered, humiliated, or exposed often make decisions they wouldn't otherwise consider." Meanwhile, Rebecca's plan continues to develop. The camera shows her accessing the hospital's pharmaceutical supply room using her credentials. She examines various medications, making notes in her journal. Nothing is taken, but her interest is methodical, professional. At home, Rebecca discovers Thomas has finally packed a suitcase. "I'm staying at Mark's for a while," he tells her. "We need space to figure things out." "There's nothing to figure out," Rebecca responds. "You're in love with my sister." "It's not that simple." "It never is," Rebecca says, her tone almost sympathetic. "Where will you two go?" Not Chicago, too many bad memories. Not here, too much judgment. Thomas looks surprised at her insight. We've talked about Denver, a fresh start. With what money? Your teacher's salary? Elaine's pharmacy technician wages? We'll manage. Rebecca nods thoughtfully. You always do, don't you? Land on your feet while others bleed out. 2 days later, Rebecca opens a safety deposit box at Pinewood Credit Union. The camera cannot see what she places inside, but her expression is one of grim satisfaction. The hospital becomes a hotbed of whispers. Rebecca walks into the break room to silence, colleagues dispersing. Only Dr. Wilson treats her normally, assigning her to challenging cases, trusting her professional judgment despite personal chaos. During a particularly difficult shift involving a multi-car accident, Rebecca works alongside Wilson to stabilize a teenage victim. Her focus is absolute, her skills undiminished by personal stress. Afterward, Wilson finds her in the empty waiting room. You're still the best nurse in this hospital, he tells her. Don't let them take that from you too. I won't. Rebecca, Wilson hesitates. Whatever you're planning, I haven't done anything wrong. Yet, I know that look. I've seen it in patients who've given up on treatment, who are planning something final. Rebecca meets his gaze. I'm not giving up. I'm just changing the treatment plan. The hospital grapevine buzzes with new information. Elaine has quit her job at the pharmacy without notice. Thomas has requested personal leave from the high school. They're leaving town. Rebecca receives this news calmly, almost as if she expected it. She retrieves the tracking device from Elaine's car under cover of darkness, erases the documentation program from her home computer, and shreds pages of handwritten notes, all except her journal, which she returns to the safety deposit box. Detective Harrison reappears, this time at the hospital, ostensibly following up on the accident victims. She finds Rebecca during break. Nurse Miller, Detective Harrison, we met briefly last month during the Carson case. Rebecca nods. The hit and run. The patient survived. Good to hear. Harrison studies her. I understand you're going through some personal difficulties. Rebecca's expression doesn't change. Pinewood's gossip machine is efficient. It's my job to pay attention, especially when people might be vulnerable. I'm not vulnerable, Detective. No? Harrison's tone is carefully neutral. Your boyfriend and sister are planning to leave town together from what I hear. That's a significant betrayal. People leave. It's what they do. Harrison hands Rebecca her card. If you ever want to talk, professionally or otherwise, call me. Rebecca takes the card, noticing it's different from standard police contact information. Why would I need to call you? Sometimes situations escalate beyond our control. It's good to have an outside perspective. After Harrison leaves, Rebecca searches the detective's name online, discovering she transferred to Pinewood 3 years ago from a major city department. Her specialty, domestic homicides and crimes of passion. That evening, Rebecca receives a text from Elaine. Need to talk, please. Roosevelt Park, 7 p.m. The park is nearly empty when Rebecca arrives. Elaine sits on a bench near the duck pond, looking smaller somehow, diminished. I didn't think you'd come, Elaine says as Rebecca sits beside her, maintaining distance. What do you want, Elaine? To explain, to apologize. Elaine's hands tremble. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? You seduce my boyfriend, destroy my reputation, then what? Christmas cards from Denver? Elaine flinches. You know about Denver. I know everything. Rebecca's calm is unnerving. The affair started 6 months ago, not 4. You met at Doreen's every Saturday, Riverdale Inn, room 118, at least twice weekly. You had a nervous breakdown in Chicago after your married boss discarded you. Now Thomas is following the same script. It's different with Thomas, is it? He's leaving someone who loves him for a newer model. The pattern is identical. Elaine begins to cry. I didn't mean to hurt you, I've always been in your shadow, Becky. Perfect Rebecca who never makes mistakes. For once in my life, someone wanted me more than they wanted you. And that justifies everything? No, nothing justifies it. Elaine wipes her eyes. But I'm pregnant, Becky. 6 weeks. It's Thomas's. The revelation hangs between them like a physical presence. Rebecca's expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind her eyes. Does he know? Elaine nods. That's why we're leaving. He wants to do the right thing. The right thing. Rebecca repeats the words as if examining an unfamiliar concept. And what would that be exactly? Abandoning one woman for another? Building a relationship on betrayal? Bringing a child into that foundation? We're trying to make the best of a bad situation. You created the situation, Elaine, both of you. Elaine reaches for Rebecca's hand. Rebecca allows the contact briefly before withdrawing. I'm still your sister, Elaine pleads. This baby will be your niece or nephew. Family. Rebecca stands. Is that what we're calling it now? As she walks away, Elaine calls after her. We're leaving on Friday. Thomas wanted me to tell you in person. Rebecca doesn't look back. Goodbye, Elaine. The next day, Rebecca requests all her accumulated vacation time. 3 weeks. Dr. Wilson approves it without question, but asks, "What are you planning, Rebecca?" "Closure," she answers simply. That evening, Rebecca drives to Thomas's friend Mark's house. Thomas answers the door, surprised. "Becky, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk, not here." They drive separately to the hospital parking lot, neutral territory. Night has fallen, the lot nearly empty during shift change. "Elaine told me about the baby," Rebecca says without preamble. "And Denver." Thomas nods wearily. "I was going to tell you myself." "Were you?" "Yes, I never wanted to hurt you, Rebecca. Sometimes people just connect in ways they don't expect." "Is that what happened with your ex before me? Katie, did you and her roommate just connect too?" Thomas stiffens. "You've been investigating me?" "Know your enemy," Rebecca quotes calmly. Sun Tzu. "I'm not your enemy, Rebecca." "No? What would you call someone who destroys your life, your reputation, your family?" "That's melodramatic. People break up, they move on. In Pinewood? Where everyone knows. Where I'll see the whispers and pity every day for years while you start fresh in Denver?" Thomas sighs. "What do you want from me, Rebecca?" "Honesty." For once, she steps closer. "Did you ever love me, or was I just convenient? Stable Rebecca who kept a perfect home and never demanded too much?" "Of course I loved you." Thomas reaches for her hand. "Part of me still does." Rebecca allows the touch. "But not enough. It's complicated." "No, it's actually very simple." Rebecca's voice hardens. "You're a coward, Thomas. You don't leave relationships. You destroy them so thoroughly that the other person is relieved when you go." Thomas drops her hand. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You could have ended things with me before starting with Elaine. Instead, you orchestrated maximum pain and humiliation." Rebecca steps back. "So congratulations. You win. Take my sister to Denver. Raise your child. But remember this conversation when Elaine eventually finds your text messages to some new woman 3 years from now." She turns to walk away. Thomas grabs her arm. "Rebecca, wait." What happens next occurs in the shadowed corner of the parking lot, partially obscured from security cameras. There's a struggle, brief but intense. A scream, male or female, the audio is unclear. The sound of something heavy falling, then silence. The camera pulls back to show a figure walking rapidly away from the scene, getting into a car and driving off. In the distance, a body lies motionless on the asphalt. Detective Harrison's voice concludes the chapter. The average homicide investigation begins with 3 questions: means, motive, and opportunity. In crimes of passion, motive is usually obvious. It's the means and opportunity that tell the real story. The final shot shows the hospital parking lot the following morning, crime scene tape fluttering in the breeze, Detective Harrison surveying the scene with methodical attention. Dawn breaks over Pinewood as Detective Harrison stands in the hospital parking lot, directing evidence technicians. Yellow markers dot the asphalt where the attack occurred. A small pool of dried blood glistens under the rising sun. Time of incident approximately 10:47 p.m. Harrison dictates into her recorder. Security camera coverage partial due to position and lighting. Victim transported to Oak Ridge Memorial to avoid conflicts of interest. Dr. Wilson approaches, still in yesterday's scrubs. "Detective, any updates?" Harrison studies him. "You were on duty last night?" "Double shift, staffing shortages." Wilson looks exhausted. "I was in surgery when it happened." "But you knew they were meeting here." Wilson doesn't deny it. Rebecca mentioned wanting closure. I hoped it would be a conversation. The documentary cuts to Harrison interviewing nurse Jenny Martinez, who discovered the body. I was leaving after my shift, Jenny explains, visibly shaken. At first I thought someone had collapsed, heart attack maybe. Then I saw the blood. She pauses. There was so much blood. Did you see anyone else in the parking lot? No, just... Jenny swallows hard. Just the body. The hospital staff room becomes command central. Harrison pins photos to a bulletin board. Thomas, Elaine, Rebecca, the crime scene. She traces connections with red string, a visual map of relationships and motives. Sheriff Dawson enters, coffee in hand. Oak Ridge called. Victim stabilized but unconscious. Blunt force trauma to the head. Weapon? Not recovered. Based on the wound pattern, something heavy and cylindrical. Maybe a tire iron. Harrison nods. Premeditated then. Not a heat-of-moment weapon of opportunity. This doesn't make sense, Dawson insists. Rebecca Miller is the most controlled person in this town. Elaine's the volatile one. People surprise us when cornered. Harrison studies the board. Where is Elaine Miller now? Officer Diaz is trying to locate her. No sign at her apartment or the pharmacy. The investigation expands as Harrison obtains search warrants for both sisters' residences. At Rebecca's house, everything is immaculate. Surfaces clean, dishes put away. In the home office, Harrison finds traces of where documentation software was recently uninstalled. She cleaned up, Harrison observes, methodically. At Elaine's apartment, chaos reigns. Half-packed suitcases, prescription bottles scattered across the bathroom counter. Harrison bags the medications, anti-anxiety drugs, sleeping pills, prenatal vitamins. She really is pregnant, Harrison murmurs. The security footage from the hospital parking lot plays on Harrison's laptop. The quality is poor, the angle problematic. Two figures stand close, then apart. A struggle occurs in shadows. One figure falls, the other leaves quickly. Inconclusive, Harrison tells Sheriff Dawson. We can't positively identify either party in the actual assault. Harrison interviews Mark Fields, Thomas's friend. He was staying with you? Mark nods. After Rebecca kicked him out, he was a mess, drinking too much, hardly sleeping. Did he mention the meeting with Rebecca? He said he needed to explain things properly, that everyone deserved closure. Harrison's investigation leads her to the Pinewood Credit Union, where she learns about Rebecca's safety deposit box. With a court order, she opens it. Inside, Rebecca's journal, meticulously detailing the affair, printouts of emails between Thomas and Elaine, a small voice recorder, a sealed envelope labeled, "In the event of my death." Harrison opens the envelope carefully. Inside, a letter begins. If you're reading this, I've either been killed or taken my own life. Either way, the truth needs to be told. The documentary shifts to Dr. Wilson in his office, staring at his phone. A text from an unknown number. I did what was necessary. I'm sorry. He deletes it immediately, expression troubled. The hospital board meets in emergency session. This situation is unprecedented, the chairwoman states. 2 of our staff involved in a violent incident on hospital property. We don't know that Rebecca was involved. Dr. Wilson interjects. She's missing, James. The circumstantial evidence is damning. Wilson stands abruptly. I need to check on my patient. In a private room at Oak Ridge Memorial, monitors beep steadily. A figure lies bandaged and intubated, unrecognizable beneath medical equipment. Meanwhile, Harrison discovers something significant. Credit card records showing Thomas purchased one-way tickets to Denver. 3 tickets, not 2. Departure date, tomorrow. 3 tickets? Dawson questions. Perhaps Elaine wasn't lying about the pregnancy, Harrison suggests. Maybe they were planning for the baby's future already. A breakthrough comes when Harrison visits the hospital pharmacy. The supervisor reports a recent inventory discrepancy, a missing vial of potassium chloride, a medication that in sufficient quantity can cause cardiac arrest and is virtually undetectable after 24 hours. When was it logged missing? That's just it, the supervisor explains. It wasn't logged. We only discovered it during emergency inventory after what happened. Harrison's investigation intensifies. She obtains records from the Riverdale Inn, Thomas and Elaine's regular meeting place. The manager provides a disturbing account. Last time they were here, they had a terrible fight, he explains. The woman, the younger one, was hysterical, threatening to hurt herself if he left her. Left her? I thought they were planning to leave town together. That's not what I heard. He kept saying he'd made a mistake, couldn't abandon his real relationship over a temporary situation. This new information casts a different light on events. Harrison theorizes aloud to Dawson. What if Thomas was playing both sides, telling Elaine they had a future while planning to reconcile with Rebecca? That would give Elaine motive, Dawson acknowledges. But Rebecca had means and opportunity, Harrison counters. She was at the hospital. She knew the parking lot blind spots. The investigation takes another turn when Officer Diaz reports finding Elaine's car abandoned at the bus station. Security footage shows her boarding a bus to Chicago 24 hours earlier, before the attack. That's impossible, Harrison insists. Jenny Martinez saw her at the pharmacy yesterday morning. Not according to the pharmacy manager. Elaine called in sick 3 days ago, hasn't been seen since. Harrison returns to the hospital, finding Dr. Wilson in his office. You knew Elaine had already left town, didn't you? Wilson doesn't look surprised by the accusation. What makes you say that? You've been protecting someone all along. I need to know why. Before Wilson can respond, his phone rings. Oak Ridge Memorial. The patient is awake. Harrison and Wilson drive to Oak Ridge together, a tense silence between them. In the hospital room, they find Thomas Cooper conscious but sedated, a bandage wrapped around his head. His eyes widen at the sight of Harrison. Detective, his voice is weak. Did you find her? We're looking, Harrison says carefully. What happened in that parking lot, Thomas? Thomas closes his eyes. I never saw it coming. I was explaining things, that I'd made a decision. Which was to go back to Rebecca, to make things right. He swallows painfully. Elaine didn't take it well? Elaine? Harrison exchanges glances with Wilson. Elaine attacked you? Thomas looks confused. No, Elaine had already left town. She couldn't handle the situation anymore. Then who attacked you in the parking lot? Thomas's expression clouds with genuine bewilderment. Rebecca, of course. Who else would it be? As Harrison processes this information, a nurse rushes in. Detective, there's been an incident at Pinewood Hospital. They're requesting immediate assistance. The scene shifts to Pinewood Community Hospital's ICU, where medical staff rush toward a room in crisis. Alarms blare. A patient has gone into sudden cardiac arrest. Dr. Wilson pushes through the crowd, Harrison close behind. On the bed lies Rebecca Miller, unconscious as doctors attempt resuscitation. What happened? Wilson demands. She came in an hour ago, a resident explains between chest compressions. Self-admitted for exhaustion. Vital signs were normal, then she just crashed. As the team works frantically, a nurse discovers a note clutched in Rebecca's hand. She passes it to Harrison, who reads it silently, her expression grave. Outside in the corridor, Harrison confronts Wilson. Did you know she was planning this? Wilson looks shattered. She came to me this morning, said she'd made a terrible mistake, that she'd attacked Thomas in a moment of blind rage when he said he wanted to reconcile. And you didn't report it? I convinced her to turn herself in, to get psychiatric evaluation first. The resuscitation continues in the background as Harrison examines the evidence before her. Rebecca's confession note, the missing potassium chloride, the journal documenting not just the affair, but a calculated plan for revenge. She never intended to reconcile, Harrison realizes. This was her endgame all along. The documentary freeze frames on the chaotic hospital room scene, medical staff fighting to save Rebecca, Wilson watching helplessly, Harrison piecing together the final elements of the puzzle. The narrator's voice concludes, in cases of extreme betrayal, investigators often look for a smoking gun, the decisive action that triggers violence. But the truth is rarely so simple. What appears to be a single breaking point is usually the culmination of countless smaller fractures, a gradual erosion of boundaries and trust until the foundation collapses entirely. The screen fades to black, leaving viewers with the image of 3 lives shattered beyond repair and a small town forever changed by the secrets it harbored. 3 days after Rebecca Miller's cardiac arrest, Detective Harrison sits in Pinewood Police Station, surrounded by evidence boards. The case file lies open on her desk. Medical reports, witness statements, timeline reconstructions. Sheriff Dawson enters, carrying coffee. "She's awake," he announces. "Doctors say we can question her." Harrison nods, gathering her notes. "And her prognosis? Survived against all odds. Neurological function appears intact. They're calling it a miracle." "Or meticulous planning," Harrison counters. "A medical professional would know exactly how much potassium chloride would simulate natural cardiac arrest without being fatal." At Pinewood Community Hospital, Rebecca sits propped up in bed, pale but alert. Harrison enters alone, recorder in hand. "Nurse Miller, I'm Detective Harrison. Do you remember me?" Rebecca nods slightly. "You warned me about Escalation." "I did. Now I need to understand what happened in that parking lot with Thomas." Rebecca's eyes remain steady. "I've already confessed to Dr. Wilson. I attacked Thomas with a tire iron from my car trunk. I planned it for weeks." "Why confess and then attempt suicide?" "It wasn't attempted suicide. It was attempted justice." Harrison studies her. "Tell me about the potassium chloride." A flicker of surprise crosses Rebecca's face before she composes herself. "A nurse knows how the body works, how it fails. I wanted control over my ending. Yet you administered a non-lethal dose." "I miscalculated." Harrison changes tactics. "Elaine left town 3 days before the attack. Did you know that?" Rebecca doesn't respond. "Thomas claims he met you to say he wanted to reconcile, that Elaine had already gone." "Thomas is a liar," Rebecca states flatly. "Always has been." Harrison leans forward. "Then help me understand the truth." The documentary shifts to Thomas Cooper's hospital room in Oak Ridge. His head remains bandaged, but he sits up, speaking to the camera. "I made terrible mistakes," he admits. "The affair with Elaine was wrong from the start. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked, agreed to leave town with her." He pauses. "But I couldn't go through with it. I loved Rebecca. Still do, despite everything. I told Elaine it was over." "And how did she respond?" the interviewer asks. "Not well. Threatened to hurt herself. Left town suddenly." Thomas looks away. "I thought if I explained everything to Rebecca, took full responsibility, maybe we could rebuild. I never imagined she'd react with violence." Meanwhile, Harrison follows another lead, traveling to Chicago. In a small apartment, she finds Elaine Miller, eyes red from crying. "I didn't know," Elaine insists. "About the attack. I was already here." "Why did you leave Pinewood without telling anyone?" Elaine's hands tremble. "Thomas said he couldn't leave Rebecca, that our relationship was a mistake. The baby." She places a protective hand over her abdomen. "He said we needed to handle it before it complicated things." "Handle it?" "Terminate. He even offered to pay." Elaine's voice cracks. "After everything I gave up for him." Harrison's expression remains professional. "Did you contact Rebecca before leaving?" "No, I couldn't face her." "And you had no knowledge of her plan to attack Thomas?" "Rebecca wouldn't do that," Elaine says with surprising conviction. "Whatever happened, Thomas isn't telling the whole truth." Back in Pinewood, Dr. Wilson sits in an interrogation room, Harrison across from him. "You withheld crucial information," Harrison states. "That's obstruction." Wilson sighs heavily. "I've known Rebecca since she was 22. She's not violent by nature. Yet you believed her confession." "I believed she was protecting someone." Harrison raises an eyebrow. "Protecting who?" Wilson holds her gaze. "Check my whereabouts the night of the attack." Hospital security footage confirms Wilson was in surgery until 11:30 p.m., eliminating him as a suspect. But his statement prompts Harrison to re-examine the evidence. In her office, she spreads out Rebecca's journal entries, noting inconsistencies in the handwriting on the final pages. The confession letter found in Rebecca's hand shows similar discrepancies. "The confession was forged," Harrison tells Sheriff Dawson, "and I think I know by whom." The investigation reaches its climax when Harrison returns to Thomas's hospital room with a search warrant. In his personal belongings, she finds a key to Rebecca's safety deposit box, where only Rebecca's key should exist. "You accessed her journal," Harrison confronts him, "added entries to frame her." Thomas attempts denial, but Harrison continues. You attacked yourself in that parking lot, didn't you? Minor head wound, lots of blood for effect. You knew the security camera blind spots. That's absurd, Thomas scoffs. Why would I do that? Because Rebecca discovered something worse than the affair. Harrison places a file on his bed. Elaine's medical records from Chicago. The breakdown wasn't about a married boss. She was hospitalized after her boyfriend, you, pushed her down a flight of stairs when she got pregnant the first time. Thomas's expression hardens. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. Elaine kept text messages from 2 years ago. You'd been seeing her long before she moved back to Pinewood. Rebecca found out the whole truth, didn't she? Not just about the affair, but about your history of violence. The documentary cuts to Rebecca in her hospital room, finally revealing the complete story to Harrison. I found messages going back years, she explains quietly. Thomas had been manipulating both of us, playing us against each other. When Elaine told him about the pregnancy, he convinced her to claim it was recent, that I was the obstacle to their happiness. But you discovered his plan to abandon her in Denver, Harrison prompts. Rebecca nods. He never intended to stay with her. The third ticket was for his mother. I confronted him with everything I'd learned. He became enraged. Her voice falters. I thought he would kill me like he tried to kill Elaine in Chicago. Instead, he turned the weapon on himself, just enough to draw blood, and told me to run, that he'd tell police I attacked him. Why would you agree to that? For Elaine? For her baby? My niece or nephew? Rebecca meets Harrison's eyes. But then I realized he'd eventually find her in Chicago. History would repeat itself. So you confessed to a crime you didn't commit, then tried to fake a suicide attempt that would reveal potassium chloride in your system, the same substance that would have shown up if Thomas had succeeded in his plan to poison Elaine. I needed evidence that couldn't be dismissed. Rebecca glances toward the window. I didn't expect to survive. The documentary's conclusion shows Thomas Cooper being arrested, charged with assault, attempted murder, and falsifying evidence. Dr. Wilson visits Rebecca as she prepares for discharge. What will you do now? He asks. Go to Chicago. Help Elaine with the baby. Rebecca's expression is resolute. Some wounds never heal completely, but they can become part of our strength. In the final scene, Detective Harrison completes her case report. Her voiceover addresses the camera directly. Small towns preserve themselves through stories. Who's good, who's not, what's acceptable. The true crime in Pinewood wasn't just the violence in that parking lot. It was the community's willingness to believe the worst about a woman whose only real mistake was loving people who didn't deserve her loyalty. The documentary ends with Rebecca and Elaine sitting together on a park bench in Chicago, tentatively rebuilding their relationship. Between them, a ultrasound image, new life emerging from the wreckage of betrayal. In criminal investigations, Harrison concludes, we often focus on who threw the first punch, fired the first shot. But the real question should be, what series of betrayals made violence seem like the only possible outcome? In that sense, perhaps there are no innocent parties, only varying degrees of responsibility for the truth we choose to ignore until it's too late.